Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for another HES webinar. Today, we're very fortunate to have Chris Barrett from APsystems, and he's here today for a 45-minute presentation with a Q&A afterwards for about 10-15 minutes. And he'll be covering all sorts of really awesome tips and tricks for your AP system installs. Just to do a little bit of overview, if you ask a question, we will hold the question until the end of the presentation. We'll do a little Q&A then. Otherwise, Chris, thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Yeah, how's it going over there?
It's going well. Thank you very much for inviting me today. I appreciate Ed, Cameron, and all the whole HES team for putting this together. So thanks for giving me the stage. And again, whoever tuned in last week, I do apologize. We had a little bit of a technical issue. I thought it was an issue with Mr. Trump, but apparently it was just Mr. Windows that was saving me a little bit of a hard time last week. But again, told me this is a troubleshooting thing. So Control Alt Delete, reboot the system, and everything just worked fine. So we're here. Perfect. So let's give it a go. Again, my name is Chris Barrett, Senior Director of Technical Support here at APsystems. As many of you know, we have a great partnership, a long-term partnership with HES, and let's get going. As Cameron said, chat boxes for questions. Please put all your questions in the chat box. We can answer them at the end of the session here. A copy of the presentation will be provided via the YouTube link, and this webinar is being recorded. Just a quick safety disclaimer in here. We want to make sure that all the tips and tricks that we're talking about here are all the things that can be done by a licensed professional. We have many homeowners that try to do this as well. We just want to make sure that it's clear that this is a licensed professional session. I want to make sure all the tips and tricks that are going on here are being utilized in a safe manner. As far as the agenda today, we're going to talk about a little bit about APsystems for those of you that are not familiar with the company. A quick overview of the microinverters that we currently sell. We're going to look at my tool bag as well. This is a section that I like to put in here. This is just some of the things that I have when I go out on site to troubleshoot or even install. Just some of the things that just make my life a lot easier. We're going to talk about communication methodology. This right here, we're talking about the internet connectivity and also the connectivity between the inverters and the gateways. We're going to do an online portal discussion and the benefits of having module level monitoring and looking at the solar modules in that as well. Of course, best practices. And at the end, we'll do a live demo followed by questions. Well, APsystems is a global provider of all kinds of microinverter technology, or actually MLPE for that matter. We were founded in Silicon Valley in 2010, so it is our 10-year anniversary or birthday this year, so we're very excited to be here. 4 global business units around the world, so basically North America, based out of Seattle, Washington, Lyon, France for the EMEA, Jiaxing for APAC, and then Guadalajara for LATAM. We have additional offices throughout the world and multiple other cities, and we're happy to work with HES across Canada. We currently are the #2 microinverter supplier in the world. I can probably guess you know who #1 is at this point, but we're bidding for him. #1 multi-module microinverter in the world. That is a true statement. Right now, over 750 megawatts. I think that actually is understated at this point, but it's 750 megawatts being monitored through our online portal. Serve customers in over 80 countries. I'm sure that's even more than that. And third-party financing, I don't think that actually applies to Canada and these particular folks. So let's dig in. Let's first talk about the single-phase microinverters. We have basically 2 single-phase microinverters, the YC600. This right here is a single unit that connects up to 2 solar modules. What I want to point out is it's an independent MPPT. So I want you to think of this 600. I drew a line straight down the middle here. I've got one side and I've got a second side. Independent MPPT means the inputs are independent of each other. The nice thing about that is you can use 60 or 72 cell modules, and for that matter, you could use 60 cell on one line, 72 on a different line because of the independent MPPT. The other important thing I want to point out is the power on which this will work in. But typically, because it's a single phase microinverter, it's made for 240 volt split phase residential. That's the initial intention. But it also will work in a 240 delta high leg, and also a 208Y. With the 208Y, it's going to require all it's going to require is a settings change for the AC parameters. Just that simple. Something that can be done remotely via the online portal or on site using the ECU app, and we'll talk more about that as we get deeper. The other important thing that we've changed over the years, and so some of you that have been installing APsystems for years know that we started with the 200, went to the 250, 500. All of those products right there were communication from the gateway to the inverters via PLC or power line communication. We have since changed to ZigBee communication to improve the communication. I know that NEC 2014 required arc fault breakers in all bedrooms, and that was great. But the problem is, well, where do people put their offices? In a bedroom that is not protected by an arc fault breaker. 2017, NEC 2017 made it even worse, because NEC 2017 said we want arc fault breakers in all the bedrooms and all the living spaces. So now you, the installer, are running around the house looking for a good plug that's not protected by an arc fault breaker, not a ground fault. So we changed from PLC to ZigBee to improve the communication, to make it easier for the installation. And then max power output, 600 watts. So that again is because of the independent MPPT, it is 300 watts per channel. The QS1, again, very, very similar to the 600. It connects up to 4 solar modules. That same MPPT, independent MPPT, so it's 4 different channels across here. Same 60 and 72 cell compatibility, the same power configuration, the same convenient ZigBee communication, and max power output is 1200 watts. But again, that is 300 watts per channel. Fast forward to the commercial product. The commercial product right here, traditionally is made for, this is a commercial market. This is actually nice because a single unit connects up to 4 solar modules. The big difference between the 600 QS1 and the MPPT is 2 things. This is a single MPPT, so this is actually what we call a micro string, okay? Same 60 and 72 cell compatibility. This is used in a 208 environment or a 480Y configuration, but the key word here is Y. This will not work in any delta situation. It does require the neutral because it is a 5-wire, 3-line neutral and ground. And I understand that, you know, in Canada, we would have the 208, but we do not use the 480. So I know that you got a 347 600 volt. We do not currently have a YC 600, sorry, YC 1000 that works in that environment, but the 208 is available and works just fine in Canada. One thing I do love about this product, and one of the reasons that I really love this product is because it takes a residential installer and turns them into a commercial installer overnight, because of the plug and playness of the product. Phase monitoring is done inside the device. All the phases, if you lose a phase, the unit will shut down by itself. Phase balanced, so of course, coming out of there, out of the pipe, all is the same. The same exact ZigBee communication used on all of our products, so it's the same protocol, same communication, and we've actually pumped up the volume a little bit to 1130 watts. So those of you that have installed the APsystems YC 1000 before, we're pumping out at 900 watts. And just probably in the last year, we've upgraded to the 1130 watts. As far as the structure is concerned, it's very similar. The AC connector here as well. This right here is 3 lines coming out. We have a line, ground, and line. Fixture, for mounting fixtures, it comes with the same mounting fixture for the QS1 and 600. And what we'd also include in here is 3 different methods of grounding. As I said right here, we have a ground in this line here, there's a grounding fixture here, and also a grounding weave. So depending on your jurisdiction, this is available to you. On all APsystems microinverters, we also include removable serial numbers. So on every single inverter, there's 4 serial numbers. There's 2 here that are removable for you to be able to make your module maps. There's 1 on the face of the device, and then there's always 1 on the side of the device, just for future identification. ZigBee antenna, molded into the case right here. This is done, nothing for you to do. Just automatically turns on and produces a signal. The LED right here, this is a great troubleshooting device right here. Although sometimes difficult to see under the panels, but this is actually provides a ton of information, which we'll talk about here in a few slides. DC connectors. DC connectors on all APsystems products are MC4, not MC4 compatible, not Amphenol, not some knockoff. They are true MC4. So for those jurisdictions that require MC4, you're already set. QS1, again, very similar. Here we go. Here's the removable serial numbers. The mounting brackets are identical. So if you have any kind of mounting of 600 or a QS1 on the same roof, you're using the exact same mounting brackets and bolts. DC connectors, again, MC4, all of them across here. AC connector. One thing I do want to point out, this QS1 and 600 both share the exact same AC connector. The nice thing about this gives you the ability to mix and match the 600 and QS1 on the same exact line. The LED light on the side here, exactly the same configuration as the 600. ZigBee antenna, again, molded into the case, nothing for you to do on the site. That's it. That's simple. So in regards to the 1000, again, we're going to walk around the circle here. Same removable serial numbers for you to be able to map your system. AC cable. Now this one is different. This AC cable connector is different because now we know there's 5 lines in here, not 3. There's line 1, line 2, line 3, neutral, and ground. ZigBee antenna. Okay, another nice feature that we've just added. When we upgraded the power to 1130, we also upgraded the antenna. For those of you that have installed the 1000 in the past, you remember there used to be an antenna that you had to screw on when you were installing the device. We have since molded that into the case. So that is no longer a point of failure. We found before customers would actually open the box, they'd mount the inverter and forget to mount the antenna. They'd call us up and say, oh, I can't, there's nothing's talking on the roof. And we said, did you install the antenna? And they said, what antenna? The one that was included in the box, which is now in a pile of trash. So we learned from our lessons and molded that right into the case. LED light, again, on the side of the device, but has the exact same sequences. And we'll talk about as we get deeper. Okay, so now we've talked about all the inverters. So here again, the 600 is a single unit that it is basically 2 inverters. The QS1 is a single unit that does 4 inverters. And then the YC1000 is a single MPPT for all the models. So 2, 4, and 4. This is just more of a review, but I think I just want to make sure we don't do a good job of actually talking about this. So as far as the 600 QS1, we look at that think of that as a residential product, but it's much more than that. And the nice thing about it for you out there, it's a single SKU for 4 different grid types. Again, 240 split, 3-phase 240 delta, 240 delta highlight, and 208Y. And again, I just want to make sure it's clear. 208Y requires a simple AC parameter change on site or remotely. Like I said, using the ECU app, you're able to automatically just change. These inverters are all shipped in 240 mode. And just by sending that simple command, you turn it into a 208 immediately. So then that turns into a commercial product. If you're looking for a plug-and-play commercial product, and again, I understand that the 480 is not a viable option in Canada, but the 208 is 3-phase, monitored, balanced, and it takes a residential commercial installer and turns them into a commercial installer overnight. As far as the troubleshooting is concerned, this is actually a really nice feature, and we just talked about this a moment ago. LED status, and like I said, I understand sometimes it's very difficult to see this under the panels as they're installed, but there's a few things that happen before the panels are actually installed. So the startup LED is a key one right here. When you plug in your first DC line, the first DC panel into the device, you're going to get 1 click red followed by 3 short green blinks. This is going to tell you that you've actually made a good DC connection. Everything is correct, everything's communicating, and now what's important to recognize is that the ZigBee chip on that device is now energized and is chirping. It's chirping, it can listen to the ECU. As far as the operation is concerned, if everything is good, and producing power, you're going to get flashing green for 10 seconds, which means you're producing power and communicating with the ECU. So it means you've got good communication between the gateway and the inverters. You could also see a 2-second gap. This could mean that it's producing power, but not communicating with the ECU. So then we know we've got some kind of communication issue. We're too far away. Maybe the ECU numbers aren't in. Maybe the numbers aren't in the ECU yet. So the inverters themselves will turn on as long as they see proper voltage and proper frequency, and they wait a 5-minute dwell. They'll come on and start producing power. But like I said, with that 10-second gap is what you're looking for, meaning that it's in the system, producing power and communicating with the ECU. Flashing red, not producing power at all. So this means that some condition has not been met. So either voltage or frequency has not been met on that site. Or for in fact, there's no AC at all. That could be there. Solid red, ground fault protection. There was some kind of ground fault issue on that site. So if you do get a ground fault, right here, solid red light indicates that. To be able to clear it, you can actually clear it from the ECU app or remotely from the online portal. Okay, so let's jump into the tools section real quick. Okay, this is one of my favorite parts. Right, so this right here, ignore the brand. You can buy all kinds of brands. This is the one that I happen to carry. I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew it. This right here is a great meter. One thing that I definitely want to point out is this tight site feature that this company offers. Other companies provide it. Like I said, I'm not a sales guy for Ideal. This is just the one that I had. I've used for many years. I've beaten it up. I've dropped it. It just keeps it ticking, keeps it licking. What I love about this, especially under those modules, if you need to look at anything, you do a DC amp meter measurement. You see right here. This right here is gold. To be able to see that meter when this thing is underneath the panel is so difficult. But being able to drop that flap and be able to see another second display, the same display here is here on the bottom, is gold. It's so incredibly important. So I want to make sure that it's clear as well. DC voltmeter, DC amp meter. This right here, I can't even tell you how many times I've been on the phone with customers and I asked them to take a DC measurement and they do not have. They have a multimeter, they have a clamp meter, but the clamp meter doesn't have DC current. And as we all know in solar, that's critical. So I just want to make sure that everyone out there, make sure if you have a chance, make sure that your meter does have a DC current meter, because it's so nice to be able to check inverters, check panels. This is a great tool. This one actually also includes the ability for frequency measurements as well. If you have any site that's any kind of funny thing going on, it's also nice to be able to verify that as well. All right, the next one, again, doesn't matter the brand, but this is the one that I carry. Klein is a fantastic product. What I love about this product, you can buy it at any home goods store. It's about $30 to $40. I'm trying to make a joke here. We all map our inverters perfectly, right? So wrong. So I use this tool, for example. Some customer calls up and says, I got a problem. I'm actually on site. I go help them troubleshoot. I asked them, I said, well, is the map accurate? And they say, of course the map's accurate. And then they go, well, I don't know if it's accurate. So they try to find the inverter and or modules that aren't working. By using this device right here, you can actually do a temperature sense of the face of the module. You can actually walk the array, temperature sense the array all the way down, look at the module temperatures and see the differences as you go. And what's going to happen is the hotter module is the one that is not working. This is a great tool. So let's say, for example, let's say you're doing service work. You didn't do the install. You don't know the map. You're saying you're looking for inverter number 1, 2, 3. You have no idea where that is on the roof. You can walk the roof and just point at a certain point on every single module, take a temperature measurement. Let's just make up numbers. So like 115 Fahrenheit. And you go to the next one, it's 112 Fahrenheit. You go to the next one, it's 114 Fahrenheit. You go to the next one, it's 125 Fahrenheit. Boom, you've just found the module that is not working. The way it works is, if there's current on that module, if there's current draw and there's movement of those electrons, that energy is being moved away, and that's in the form of heat. It goes away. If it's not moving, if it's static, if the inverter's not on working, or if the panel has any kind of issue, that will be warmer. Slightly warmer, but warm enough where you'll be able to quickly identify that. Okay, this right here, another great tool. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a home where the home does not have any external AC power. This right here is give the ability for you to be able to charge your phone, plug in the ECU to this directly. It has a USB charger, also an AC outlet. Again, this is an amazing tool, really cheap, $20, any home center. It just gives you the ability to charge all of your equipment and not have to depend on the homeowner or access to the homeowner's house to get the AC. Again, not brand specific, could be anything, but this is a fantastic tool right here. Again, I always recommend a hardwire connection to the ECU. It is just the most reliable. We always talk about reliability of modules. We talk about reliability of inverters. No one ever talks about reliability of the internet connection. And as we all know, that is equally as important as anything else on that route, because you're going to get a phone call if the internet is not working. And the last thing I want you to do is roll in trucks to fix Wi-Fi connections. So this tool right here is nice because you're actually able to test the wires that you're using. Because if you think you got a bad cable, you can test it with this. You can actually test the cable. You can actually do the wire map and make sure the wiring is correct if you made your own cables. And you can also use it as a toner as well. So let's say there is wiring in the house. You're trying to find where the other end of the wire is. That's because you use the toner as well. So it saves you a ton of time by doing the job right. Another tool that I use a lot, 1101 Klein Tool. Every situation I may need a nut driver. I may need a Phillips. I may need a number 1 screw out its flipper. Whatever I need, it's in this tool. Amazing tool for the price. Just nice to have. Non-voltage contact sensor. So this right here, this is super great for if you're trying to chase lines that are dead. We had many cases where customers are called and said the system's not working, and I said, well, why don't you check the breakers? Because sometimes we see dead breakers or a line that's dead. This is a quick and dirty way, or a quick and easy way to be able to visually see and hear if there's voltage on any single line. Just getting next to it or near it, you're going to be able to see a red light flashing at you, and you're also going to have an audible sound telling you that there's voltage. No replacement for a multimeter. I'm not suggesting multimeter is not necessary. This is just a nice thing to be able to pull out of your bag, just drop it on a line real quick, just like verify that there's voltage on all the lines, and just for troubleshooting those lines to verify that you've got voltage all the way through. This one really not a troubleshooting tool, but it's one of my favorite tools in the box. If I ever have to troubleshoot, ever had to do any kind of repair work, this is the best strippers I've ever had. I've had this pair of strippers now for about 10 years. It is amazing. I should be a salesperson for this product because I've sold more than these. This is a great product. So if you want the best pair of strippers you've ever had, make sure you go to the Ideal, pick them up. You won't be sorry. Okay, time for the drum roll. But the best tool that you can have in your toolbox is the ECU app. Okay, this app, as we're going to talk about here in a second, is the best tool because the nice thing about the app and the ECU no longer is a toy, it's a tool, and that goes along with the ECU app. The ECU app can be picked up from the Apple Store or the Google Store. You can scan these right here, or you can go to the stores and just search for ECU app. You can type in APsystems, whatever you're looking for. The nice thing about this, it gives you the ability to configure the system, commission it right there on site, do the troubleshooting, and do an installation checkup. Before you even leave that site, you're going to know that you've made good DC connections. You're going to know that you've put the serial numbers into the ECU. You're going to know that you've got AC to the sites and to the inverters and power production, and give you the ability to take a screenshot of that and use that as your report card for the day. So digging into the ECU app. The ECU app, like I said, turns from toy, the ECU went from a toy to the sharpest tool in your toolbox. And I really believe that because this particular piece, we've worked so hard to develop a tool that was useful. We wanted to make sure that this tool, the ECU app and the ECU, could be used on site by everybody on that crew. It doesn't have to be some special person on the crew. Everyone can log in that ECU, everyone can have this app on their phone, and everyone can see the progress that they've made throughout the day. As far as the gateways are concerned, there's two gateways, ECU-R and ECU-C. The ECU-R was originally intended to be a residential product, hence the R. The ECU-C was originally intended to be a commercial product, hence the C. But we're finding that I would say 95% of the sites are using the ECUR, which is, like I said, basic monitoring gateway. The nice thing about this particular product, it's compatible with all of our products, so 600 QS1 and 1000. So if you're in a commercial environment, boom, use the ECUR. If you're a residential, ECUR, no problem at all. Both of these devices will utilize the ECU app for setup and commissioning. The ECU-C actually adds a little bit more advanced functions, and it also so the advanced functions are things like relay control and CT. So we're able to monitor production, consumption, all of that information, use that information. And we can talk more about it in a separate webinar. Okay, let's talk about networking and connectivity. This is one of the places that really slow down solar installers, and this is very valuable. Like we talked about before, APsystems, other solar inverters utilize PLC technology. PLC has been around for a long time, and it's a fantastic technology. But like I said, with NEC, the advent of NEC 2014, putting arc fault breakers in all bedrooms. In 2017, making it even worse by putting arc fault breakers in all living spaces. PLC became really difficult to work with because there's no way to pass a PLC or power line signal through an arc fault breaker. It's also an issue with false tripping of arc fault breakers as well, because the arc fault breaker senses the communication on the line as an arc and does a false trip. So it becomes an issue. So what we decided to do was go to ZigBee communication. As many of you know that have installed our product, the YC1000 has had ZigBee communication on it since its birth, 6 years ago. So we did a little cut and paste engineering and actually added that into our YC600 and our QS1. And like I said before, the advent of the QS1, the 600 ECUR and that solid interconnection has reduced my call volume by 50%. It's a much better way of communicating. We're at broadband speed, so much faster. It is a go-to wireless protocol. This right here, I'm going to go to the next slide, actually talk about it a little bit more here. So the difference between the PLC and ZigBee is basically PLC is going through the power lines. ZigBee is going through the air. Think of ZigBee as an industrial Wi-Fi. So for example, IEEE 802.11 is the Wi-Fi protocol that we all use in our homes and our businesses. And what it is basically the black piece right there is the point, and there's the small circles are the peers. So the peers are things like your phones, mobile phones, your tablets, your computers, all connected via this Wi-Fi signal. ZigBee adds the extra element, the 802.15.4 protocol, because it's very similar. It communicates on the exact same frequency, 2.4 gigahertz. But what it does, it's a peer-to-peer to point communication device as well. So for example, I know Ed's on the phone call right now, and Cameron's on the phone call. I'm trying to talk to Ed and he's not listening. And I can see him there, but he can't hear me. So I'll talk to Cameron and I'll say, Cameron, ask Ed a question. Cameron will ask Ed the question, Ed will reply back to Cameron, and then Cameron will reply back to me. So this is what we call the ZigBee network, or the self-healing network. This is recipe for success, and it reduces any kind of issues on the roof as far as communication is concerned between the inverters and that gateway. Internet connectivity issues is the other big one. This is one that I will talk about all the time. You know, we're all solar guys. We're not IT people. So at the end of the day, this is one of those things. It's a burden for all of us. But unfortunately, if we're selling a product that's an inverter on a roof, and then a gateway and the monitoring on their home and at their phones, so that bridge is the internet. So having a good solid internet connection is critical, because customers are expecting to see, you know, all this information at their fingertips whenever they want to do it. What's important is that is reliable. I've always said in the past, the best salesperson for you and your businesses is a happy customer. Because what I want to do is make sure that the inverters are performing at their best, that gateway is strong, the internet connection there is going up. So when they're at their dinner party, they pull out their EMA app and they're showing off their system to their customer. Everything is looking great, and they want to say, who installed that for you? I want to call them tomorrow. I want a system too. Which leads me to this slide. like I said, I definitely get on my soapbox as far as Ethernet cables, and I understand Ethernet cables are not always the most convenient, but let's just be honest, they're the most reliable, and they're definitely the most secure. If you have an opportunity to do it, AP Systems definitely provides the Ethernet ports, both the ECUR, ECUC, and again, we see it a lot where customers have services. Let's say you have different internet providers, so you switch from AT&T to Comcast. We're finding that if you hook it up via Wi-Fi, guaranteed you're going to get a phone call and say, my system's not working. You're going to roll a truck to go out there and fix an internet connection. That's crazy to me. But if the ECU is connected via hardline, we're finding that, let's say 4 things are plugged into the back of the router, they change services, they put a new router in, almost guaranteed with 99% accuracy, they're going to put those 4 things back in, and you're not going to get a call for a truck roll to go fix an internet connection. For those of you that have issues with distance, we all know that Ethernet is a great solution, but it's limited as well. It can only go up to about 100 meters or 330 feet. That particular right there is a game changer for some. So if you have a home that has internet and you have, or maybe let's say a barn or a ground mount, this right here is also another great solution and very super duper reliable. A little bit on the expensive side, but it solves your bridge problem. This right here is a company called Ubiquity. This right here is we call an AirWire system. So Ethernet over the air using TDMA technology, basically cell phone towers, 2 little mini towers. This particular one right here, I believe goes up to 4 kilometers away from each other. So super reliable and something we recommend quite a bit. Okay, so as far as energy monitoring, like I said, that is the key thing. That's the third piece of the puzzle, right? So it's basically a 3-legged chair. You've got the inverter, you've got the gateway, and you've got the online monitoring. And all 3 of those have to be connected together. We want to make sure that the reliability is there for the inverter, the gateway, and that internet connection, so the customers and you can be able to see this. We talk about here around the clock monitoring. So the monitoring actually is active from around the clock. You can actually access it anytime, anywhere in the world. One thing I just want to point out, just for your benefit, for troubleshooting, the ECU itself is the brains of the operation of the AP Systems system. Basically, the ECU, once it knows its serial numbers, once you put those serial numbers, scan those serial numbers into the system, that ECU will go out and actually talk to those inverters every 5 minutes forever. Basically, let's say you plug the ECU in, that's time 0. At the 5-minute mark, it will say, okay, inverters, what is your status? They'll ask the question to the inverters will then reply back, and that information is held in the ECU's memory. Then we'll take that information and go at the 10-minute mark. What's your status? It will reply and come back and hold it. At the 15-minute mark, it will push out and say, what's your status? And so at 15-minute mark, it will take the 5, the 10, and the 15-minute data, pull it all together, and push it to the cloud. So we're going to have basically 20 poll cycles of that site per hour and 4 pushes of data to the cloud. So when we're inside the EMA, well, I'm going to show you that information. It's nice because the granularity is there. So you get the 4 pushes an hour, but it pushes those 5, 10, and 15-minute data. The nice thing about this as well, we have an online computer version, which very full-featured device on the online, but we also have a handheld application that can be used, like I said, anywhere in the world on your phone. Both again available on iOS and Android. The other nice feature we also provide is the alerts. So to the installer only, we have the ability to give you the alerts for anything that's on the system that we sense based on the algorithms is an issue. The nice thing about it is, in the past, we've actually alerted you of everything and ended up creating spam and sending you too much information. What we've done is we've kind of backed off on that. We've kind of just only alerted you of the things that actually are critical. And the most important part is it has to persist for 3 days before we notify you. So for example, especially in Canada, you probably have this issue. So you have a snowstorm overnight, the modules in the front, or maybe all the modules are covered up. We used to send you a message and say the system's not working. And you kind of say, well, no kidding, it's not working. It's covered in snow. If the snow would melt off, in 3 days, you won't get it. You never get an alert for that. If it doesn't melt off in 3 days, then you'll get an alert. Say, hey, look, there's something wrong with the system. In this particular case, it's snow. Let's say the warms up, cools off, warms up, cools off, and the top row is working, but the bottom row isn't working because the snow is sloughed off, but hasn't completely gone off. You may get an alarm for the ones in the bottom. But again, you're going to get the message as an installer, not the homeowner. So it gives you the proactive ability to be able to call up the installer and the homeowner and say, hey, look at the system, looks like there's an issue there. I mean, if it's snow, obviously it's very understandable. If it's something else, you have the upper hand of being able to make a phone call before you get a phone call and say, hey, I noticed there's something on your system. I'm going to be in your area in 2 weeks from Wednesday. We'll come take a look. So the power of the system, the power of having this module level monitoring is critical. This has been so nice. And what I like to do is I like to call the online portal truck roll prevention portal, because what we're trying to do is trying to give you enough information to make logical decisions and fix things remotely, if possible, right from your couch, right from your office, wherever you are, right from your truck. The last thing I want you to do is roll a truck to go to inspect things and go try to figure out what's going on, because we provide so much information online. You're able to see what's going on online. So, for example, just recently, just sounds like a long time ago. So I was in January. I was at a trade show. Customer comes up to me and says, "Chris, I love your products and I've been having good luck with it, but it looks like I've got, a failed inverter on one of your sites, on one of my sites." And I said, "Oh, really? Well, we're sitting there in front of a live demo at the trade show." And I said, "Let's pull up your site and take a look." So he gave me the ECU number, which is right here. So we were able to type into the system, and we said, okay, well, which serial number is it? And I said, you could see it, obviously one was performing, a little bit less than the other one. So we typed in the serial number and kind of brought it up. And in the online portal, I was able to actually look at the DC channels. So if you look from the example down here, and we can look at this online when we go to the live demo, you see right here, I'm comparing two channels. I've got channel 1 and I got channel 2 of the same inverter here. And what I'm showing down below is, you can just barely see, it's a bit of an eye chart. It's the voltage for one panel and it's the voltage for the second panel. And what we found out was that one of the diodes had failed, and that you can see just the numbers here alone, that the voltage was a third less. So it was only 2/3 of the total max, which obviously explained the poor performance of that particular inverter. And he said, well, when can I get an RMA? And I said, well, this is really not an inverter issue. This is a module issue. Kind of sat and chewed on it a little bit, thought about it, and says, oh, I said, yeah, no, the APsystems does not make the DC. We only measure what we get. So we're getting this information that you're seeing here is from the module, both those voltages. He literally took a picture of the screen, walked over to the manufacturer that he bought the panels from, and they shipped them out every place. Just from this information. So the nice thing about this, he did have to roll a truck, but he knew exactly what he needed to do before he went out there. He went out there he went looking at this job with information, went out to the site with the right tools, and was able to finish the job quickly and easily with the materials. One of the things that I did ask him to do when he got on site, just to verify, just to make sure, because I hate to say I'm 100% right every single time. That's not possible. But what I said was, when you get on site, I want you to take a look at the back of the module. And I want you to take a look and say, what is the VOC of the module? Then take out your multimeter and just plug that in and just verify that voltage. If the voltage is supposed to be, let's say 36 volts, VOC, and you're getting 24 volts, you have one of the strings on that module that is out. And that's exactly what he saw. He was actually able to verify with a multimeter that his module was bad. The other great test that I like to do, and it's another good reason to have that multimeter with the DC current measurement, is to be able to click the leads together and verify that you've got that motion, you've got that current movement in that panel. And again, all this information can be looked at on the backside of the module. The voltage, as we know, even with just little sun, the VOC is going to get up there pretty quick. The current is based on the sun, based on the irradiance. So that number right there will vary quite a lot depending on how much sun you get. But this is a great way to be able to troubleshoot a module, use the AMA to be able to say that it's not an issue, it's not an inverter issue, it actually was a module issue. But that gave that customer, that installer, the ability to see that quickly and easily and resolve his customer's issue very quickly. I want to point out on the APsystems website, there is all kinds of resources available to you. We have right here the support page, the training page. This is all kinds of information, tips and tricks, frequently asked questions. We have a registration page for any kind of webinars that we have going on that you're welcome to join. And of course, documentation library. This right here is gold. This is where you have all your marketing sheets, all your product sheets, or product manuals, installation manuals, and of course certifications for the jurisdictions that require you to attach that to your jobs. We were just talking a little bit about this earlier, the website for YouTube. So YouTube actually has an APsystems Solar section. All of the websites, all the webinars that we've been doing, all of the ECU R videos, ECU C videos, 600s, QS1s, even all the older 500s and 1000s, everything is up online. So you can actually go and watch the videos anytime you'd like, 24/7 a day. Okay, so let's just do a little bit of review. So in review, the ECU app is a tool, not a toy. And like I said, I can't emphasize enough. When you get on site, it's tempting, and I've done it myself, right? That's how we used to install solar. The end of the day, we grab that ECU and say, okay, where's that ECU? What I want you to do when you get on site now is get that ECU out of the box and plug it in when you get there. This is before you install module number 1, before you install inverter number 1. Then there's no inverters, not even rails on the roof yet. Turn that thing on, scan in those serial numbers that you're going to install at that site, that day. The nice thing about this is, like I said, every 5 minutes, it's going to go out and ask attention, hey, module number 1, 2, inverter number 1, 2, 3, are you there? 4, 5, 6, are you there? 7, 8, 9, are you there? And of course, for the first 2 hours of the day, they're not going to respond because they're not even installed. But like I said, once you install that first inverter and you make that first DC connection with a panel, now that ZigBee chip is now energized. And now the next time that ECU asks, hey, are you there? And it's going to say, hey, I'm here. So as the installer on your app, you're going to be able to see these panels light up as you're building the array. Other big advantage of that is you're building your ZigBee network as you're building the array. So you're strengthening the network. You're not asking at the end of the day to plug this thing in and go find 30 inverters. Your 30 inverters are being found throughout the day as you're going. Other nice thing about it is if you miss a DC connection, if there's a problem with the site, you're going to find it at 9 o'clock in the morning, not at 6 o'clock at night when you're trying to go home. That's the most important thing right there. So that really takes that ECU app and that ECU and turns it into a tool. Another really important thing, scan the serial numbers using ECU app. No need to type them in. Some people still feel that they need to just type them in. Absolutely zero need. I want to make sure it's clear. Every single inverter has 4 different places where you can scan the serial number. On the boxes themselves, if they're on open boxes, the outside of the box also has the serial numbers for that are in those boxes. You can scan the outside of the box and carry the entire box to the roof. You don't have to carry individual inverters. So again, that's going to save you some time. That's going to save you some damage. You can actually unpack those on the roof instead of carrying those inverters one by one to the roof. ECU placement is also critical. Again, 100 meters. That's the theoretical max, right? So you don't want to put it at 100 meters. You don't want to say, oh, I put it at 99 meters and it should be fine. It should be fine, but that's line of sight, no obstructions. So just be cognizant of that. Think of it as, again, as Wi-Fi in your home. How far away can you walk from your Wi-Fi until you lose your signal? The same thing with ZigBee. Create an accurate inverter map. Again, this only helps you for future. It's so nice to be able to watch the shade come up in the morning and go down in the nighttime. But also, if there is any future issues in the future, you know exactly where those modules are. You know exactly where those inverters are. It's just going to save you time in the future. So that accurate map is so important. Hear me again on my soapbox. Ethernet rocks. There's nothing better. I used to travel a lot before this COVID thing. My house is wired. I want to make sure that when I leave, my wife is happy, right? If Netflix isn't streaming for some reason because the Wi-Fi is out, I don't want to get that phone call. I want to make sure that everything in this house works. The printer works, ECU works, and Netflix box works. AC end caps and DC caps. So at the end of every run for the AC, you need to put a cap on. I've seen too many terminations. They were not there. You're just going to leave live wires on the roof. Not a good choice. So put the AC cap on. It's dust tight, watertight, and it's got a little hook on it so you can actually do wire management. DC caps. Again, so if you use an odd number of modules on a roof, you don't have to use all 4 ports on a QS1. You can use 3, you can use 2. Same thing with a 600, you don't have to use both. But if you don't use one, just put on the rubber tight boots. Again, watertight, dust tight. And at the end, this is, I'll show you now, we're gonna switch over here in a second. I'm gonna show you a live demo of this right here. This is a section on the EMA that most people don't even know about. This is where you can actually add pictures of the site, you can add your permits, electrical drawings, your sticker maps, all of these things that can be scanned in and saved in the record. So next time you ever need to look for something, it's going to be right there. You don't have to look for that file for Mrs. Smith's house anymore. It's going to be saved online. So it's going to be good for you. And if you ever call us, we're going to be able to say, oh, okay, I see what you're looking at now. I see that the electrical drawing, I see the electrical lines where they're set. All that information is going to be available to you, me, not to the homeowner. Okay, so like I said, we're just going to go into the online demo here in a second. What we're going to try to cover is inverter links configuration. This is the marrying of the ECU to the inverters. We're going to talk about grid profiles. This is where we're going to be able to set the grid profile. Depending on your jurisdiction, I know that in Canada, we're using the UL 1741. And California, for example, uses 1741 SA. I don't know if Canada has adopted it yet, but I'm sure it's coming. So this is where you'd be able to go and actually change those numbers easily. Settings list. This is going to be where we're going to be able to see the commands that we'd sent, when they were sent, and when they were received. We're going to talk about the Diagnose tab and the Intelligent Diagnose tab. These are 2 tabs that we're just nice to be able to go in and say, kind of steer you in a direction. If you got a problem, you can go into here. It's going to kind of steer you in a certain place to go and fix those issues. User registration, module mapping, installation drawing, and then a brand new feature called Device Replace. So give me a few seconds here. I'm going to switch over, and I'll be right back with you.
Thanks, Chris. We do have a couple questions that we can probably wait till the end and then ask all those as you try and switch over. One thing for you guys to note while Chris is getting set up here is we are finding some really, really good sales with the QS1 combined with the ground mount. Makes it really easy to mount 4 modules in a quadrant, which makes it really easy to wire up to the QS1. So it can make a very, very economical ground mount system. We see a lot of farmers taking advantage of that. So that's something to put into your sales cap. Okay, I'll hand it back to you, Chris.
Can you see the screen? Everybody see the screen? Perfect.
Yep, it's showing.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick overview of the homeowner view, and then we're going to jump right into the installer view. So the homeowner view right here, it gives basic information about the site. This right here is one of APsystems demo sites currently located in San Diego, California. But what's nice about this is we want to frame this in such a way that a homeowner can look at this really quickly, digest what's going on their site, and not make a phone call to you to explain to them what's going on their site. So we basically give them information in regards to what's going on with the site. If it's normal, everything's good. Basically all of the environmental things. What's happening throughout the day. Again, as you see, it's every 5 minutes this thing is reporting. We also try to give an information as far as day by day. So I can go back to the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, and actually see some basic information about the site. It's also nice is we also provide the monthly energy in the current year. So if you just hover over it, you can see in January, 216 kilowatts, February, 295, March, 445, 459, almost 600. And this month has just started, so we're almost finished. Here, 715. So as the months grow, as you add a new month in there, it's going to add a new piece of pie. The customers also get module level monitoring. So right here, again, every 5 minutes, you're actually able to see that shading throughout the site. This site is our test site. It's actually heavily shaded with all kinds of palm trees, power poles, power lines, transformers, and parapet walls. And you'll see that as we get deeper into the presentation. What's nice about this is actually they're able to see what's going on at any given time. Onto the report tab. You get basic information again. Again, what we're trying to do is present it in such a way that it's easily digestible, something they can see, and like I said, you're not getting a phone call trying to explain to them their production. I'm going to start at the bottom because I think this is actually pretty cool. On the bottom here, this is all the data. This system was installed in March of 2015. One thing I want to point out is the APsystems does not truncate any of your data. So the data is all available to you wherever you are from the day this was installed till until ever. So like I said, 2015 was this was installed. You can see the data coming through here. We put it in numerical format. Just above it here, we actually put it in graphical format. So you can actually see every single month of every single year. But let's say 2015 is a distraction. It was only a part of the time of year, so I can turn that off. I can go to these radio bars and turn off certain years. 2019 has just started, so let's just turn that off too. So now we've got 2016, 17, and 18, and 19. All of those years overlaid on each other, and you can see how it's tracking. And you know, that's kind of nice for a homeowner to be able to see that. It's very, very nice. So, okay, I'm gonna log out of this. Let's go into installer view. Show you some of the neat features we've got in the installer view. So I'm gonna look at the exact same site. It's our test site. So when you log into the installer version, you're going to log into your fleet view right here. And the fleet view is nice because you're going to be able to see every single installation you have all lined up. You're going to see the ECU number, which is the most important number here, who it is, where it is, system size, registration date, and the most important here is system status. The system status right here is nice because it's basically a traffic light system. We have the green, the yellow, and the red. I think you can assume what the green means. It's good, right? The system is operating fine, no issues whatsoever. Yellow is cautionary. So there's something going on the site, but it's not an emergency, something you should look at. Maybe one module is not performing as well as another. Maybe there's low power production on one as opposed to another. The red obviously means there's a problem. Could be something that's a failed module, failed inverter. Could even be as simple as the internet connection is gone. We also add a fourth color in there, which is black, the black dot. And I'll show you as we get deeper in here. But basically, let's say, for example, you have some customer, Mrs. Smith, that doesn't have internet at her house, never is going to have internet at her house, and doesn't want internet at her house. What I don't want is you to look at your fleet view every single day, see Mrs. Smith's house, a red dot, and think there's a problem. What I want to do is I want you to be able to visually filter out Mrs. Smith because she doesn't have internet. So why put a red arrow, an error message up there when it's not really an error? She just doesn't have internet. So let's get again. As we get in here, you can see here, very similar. Actually, it's the exact same, just elongated, but basically the same thing. We're looking at the beginning of the day, and as the day goes by, this is total production for the entire site. We come over here to the module view, same view the customers get. So again, down here, I can come down here and play this back and forth. Every 5 minutes throughout the day, it's recording this data. What's also nice about this is I can go in here. So as an installer, you can click on this. I can say, oh, what is the serial number? I can say, oh, it's a 305 LG, it's mono. And then the gold right here is the details. Click on detail. I come down to detail. This is where I get all the information. This is what I call truck roll prevention. This is the ability to you to go in and see what's going on in that site. I get, right here, you can see channel A, channel B, and AC. I can see all this information all in one shot. So let's look at A first. So right here, I can see the DC voltage, I can see the current, and I can see the number of watts being made at any given time, every single 5 minutes. It's super nice. Then I can do the same inverter. I can look at the B channel and see what it's doing. And here's the same information every single 5 minutes. The nice thing is I can also do the AC side. I can verify, okay, oh, yep, the site's got 237 volts, it's at 60 hertz, and it's at, like, let's see, the peak of the day is still going up. We're at 59C. As you can see, starts off early in the morning here at 19, 18C, goes up. So you can look at thermals as well if there's any kind of issues there. So that's super nice. Other nice thing is you can look at hourly energy in a day, how much energy you've made per day, per module. You can look at daily energy in a period. So it goes back 30 days. How much has this one module made in 30 days? This is great for troubleshooting as well to see if it's consistent. I mean, and of course there's going to be variations because of weather or soiling or whatever, but it's just a nice, good, it's a thumb feel. Monthly energy in year, how much has it made? You know, you expect it to make less in January, and it does, and we saw this in the numbers. It's climbing as the weather improves, as the sun gets closer, better angles, everything's looking great. So let's come back here to performance in day. So for example, the example that I gave earlier about the DC module being bad, I can come over here now. I can go to the section called compare. So I'm going to turn that on. So on compare, this is where I can actually compare. I can look at here, 216 and 216. I'm looking at channel A and channel B. And I can look at whatever I want. And again, I can come down here and turn off the power. I can turn off the current on both. I can only look at what I want to see. I want to see DC voltage on the exact same inverter. So this is channel A and channel B on top of each other right here. And now I can see the voltage of each of these panels very, very clearly, very important. So like I said, if there was any kind of variation, like on this example before, I might see a 33 and a 24, a 33, 25, whatever. This one right here, you're seeing it. It's very nice. But the nice thing is I can actually look at another inverter at random. I just pick this one. So now I'm comparing the A channel of one inverter to the A channel of a different inverter. Of course, on a different side of the roof, different part of the roof. So it's going to see different things, different voltages, different shading. But nonetheless, it's nice to be able to pull that. I can look at the B channel and see how that tracks. Very, very nice. Under history, this right here is where you'd actually do any kind of changes. Let's say you had any kind of change to a system, you had to change out an ECU. This is where you'd have to keep a history of the previous ECU installed and then the one that's currently on the site. Same thing with inverter. Under remote control sections right here, ECU status. This right here is where you'd actually be able to change those traffic lights to that black dot that I talked about. So let's say if Mrs. Smith doesn't have internet, I can click on no internet, I hit submit, the button on the outside on that fleet view would turn black. ECU setting right here. This is also nice. This is actually where you're able to look at the firmware version on the device itself. You're actually able to do the time zone right here remotely. You can send it right from here, tell it where it's at. Serial numbers, and this is what I was talking about before, linking of the devices. This is right here, you want to make sure that it is linked. This linking actually happens automatically, but there are times when, let's say it doesn't happen automatically, there's a problem. You can come in here and you can click on add and send that link command, and you're going to make that marriage of that ECU, inverters, and this online portal. Grid profile, this is where you'd come to be able to select the voltages and put that information in. This is actually a 500 site, so we don't have the drop-down menu, but if it's 600, QS1, or 1000, there's a drop-down menu where you'd actually be able to select UL 1741 240, UL 1741 Rule 21, and hit send. Settings list. This is actually another good one right here. This is an example. Actually, I'll just do it real quick. Come over here to issue setting. I'm just going to send a command. So I'm going to select from the one below. I'm going to select this one right here and send a link command. I'm going to come over here to the settings list. And now you see right here, I just sent an inverter links command today. And this is the send time. The reply time is when the ECU actually receives the command and executes. So this is a great troubleshooting tool to verify internet connection. So if you have an issue on the site and you don't know if it's internet connection or if it's something else, or maybe it's communication or whatever, it's a great way to do it. Being able to send a links command is kind of like sending a ping. Sending a ping, you're going to send a ping, and if you get a reply back, you know you've got an internet connection at that site. Diagnose. We talked about this a second ago. It's a great way to be able to log in and see what's going on. And then this right here is actually showing you the site, who it is, where it is, the inverter numbers, the different channels, and what it's doing, the working status. Everything is reporting just fine, and how much power it's made today. The intelligent diagnostic, this is where if there was a problem, you'd be able to come in here, or it'd actually be able to click on this. It would actually give you quick steps to try to figure out what the problem is. So it's kind of a helpful way to get there. This one right here has got a big greenish smiley face. System is working normally. Under user registration, this is where you create your customer. The nice thing about this right here, this is going to be you'll be able to fill all the information about the customer, where they're located, what they are. This is where you can turn on email to customer. This is going to be able to, do you want to send the weekly production report to the customer or not? You can select that. Some customers you may want that to go to, some customers you may not want to. You have the ability to do that. Edit passwords. In the old days, which like 3 months ago, we actually had to type in the customer serial number, a password. Now you can just click on submit here, and whatever email address is listed in their system, they're going to get an email. They'll be able to reset their password themselves. You no longer have to send them an email with all that information. Let's say, for example, another one here, T. Nelson. Let's say T. Nelson sold the house. He's no longer there. Now it's going to be C. Barrett. I can come down here and type in C. Barrett, hit submit. It's going to send an email to this person, which is going to then change their username. So let's say, for example, you have a house and you sell the house. This way you can actually have the homeowner take care of this. You can actually reset that for them. And this right here is just the financial partners, if you have any kind of financial banking partners. And if you have anything in Canada that we can add here, we can definitely do that for you if needed. Let's talk about the configuration. I know we're running up against time here, so I'll try to make this quick. If we are under the mapping section, we saw the array earlier all together. The nice thing about this array here, I can actually go in here and I can select. I can move these around anywhere I want on the map. I can make it look like it's on the roof. I can also change orientation. So this could go into a more of a landscape type configuration. I come over here to hit save. I go back to module, and boom, you see that's changed on the view as well. It happens that fast. Okay. One more thing I just want to share with you guys real quick. Okay, so right here, this is what I was talking about, the upload installation drawing. This right here is really, really nice. Again, it's a great place to be able to store all your documents, your pictures, things that you can utilize in the future. Maybe it's not important today, but I think, in 2 years, 3 years from now, if you ever have an issue, you want to refer to that site. Like for example, I can go here, click on this view, and here you go. You can see this is a roof mount, parapet wall, high trees everywhere, lots of shading on this particular site. It's just a good visual reminder of you and that installation. I can also come back here and go to the installation drawing and pull up a single line sketch drawing of the site. So all of these kind of things, pictures, drawings, documents, permits, sticker maps, whatever you have, this is a great place to be able to store all that for you. And just so you reference, just a reference, this is actually seen by you and seen by us, not by the homeowner. So. Hey,
Chris, quick question on that.
Sure.
Can you add files from the app?
Files from the, yes, yeah, you sure can.
So you can do these uploads from the app while you're on site or whatever the
Absolutely,
case may be. So you could take a picture of the array and then just upload it right there on the app.
Yep, ECU App, yep, absolutely.
Oh, cool, yep.
So it's a great repository for all that kind of stuff. And like I said, you're probably still going to have the manila folder in your office with this information, but there's nothing better than having the guy in the field be able to access this right there on their computer when they're in the field. So that is really super nice. Guess we can handle some questions if anybody's got any questions.
Yeah, we have one. Yeah, go ahead, Cameron.
Okay. Thanks for the presentation as well, Chris. That was really well done and actually answered a lot of questions as they came in. So that was definitely a benefit. And if anybody does have other questions, now's the time to get them in. We are, as Chris said, running up against the clock, but the quick question here is from an installer who's having some issues with YC600 tripping arc fault breakers, and their question is, what would be a quicker solution than replacing the older YC600 with newer ones with the ZigBee communication?
I think I could be wrong, but I'm actually talking with a customer right now in Canada about that. But I think it was the 500s that were installed, not the 600s. And I suggested that the 600s be installed because the 600s, okay, because the 500s actually communicate via PLC. So that is clearly on the power lines, and the arc fault breakers do see that and do. It depends on the breaker manufacturer, but we have seen nuisance tripping with the 500s, and again, that's one of the reasons that we switched away from PLC to ZigBee because of that, because arc fault breakers. Like I said, 2014 was the beginning of it. 2017 was the kiss of death as far as the communication. So yeah.
So Chris, you don't know of any solution other than to swap the inverter?
Well, there's a solution. Like for example, one of our competitors uses outside box. So you can actually take that ECU, install it outside or electrically outside, adjacent to or in the same panel as the PV junction. See, what you want to do is be as electrically close to the array as possible, shortest distance, or you could actually hook it up in 240 mode as well. So you're talking about the PLC device, the ECU3 version 4, can be hooked up in either 120 or 240 mode, utilizing all that copper for better communication. Yeah, let's get the customer's name. We can definitely chat about it offline. But I definitely want to help. But yeah, we definitely try. having, because if the ECU is plugged anywhere in the house, that communication goes all the way through the house, through those breakers and up to the roof. If we can avoid that at all going through anywhere near the arc fault breakers would be the key piece.
Perfect. Yes, I will forward you that information. There are a few other questions here. However, they're pertinent to their particular installs as well, so we'll probably be taking those questions offline. Chris, again, thank you so much for your presentation and for spending this time with us. Everybody that attended, thank you for attending, and we will be doing these regularly, and we look forward to everyone attending the next webinar. So thank you again, and again, to everyone who didn't have a question answered, we will be taking the rest of them offline. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye now.
Thanks, everyone.